Le Meneur du Diable. It's a short film from 1896 by the legendary forefather of filmmaking, Georges Méliès. The movie included 4 minutes of an encounter with the devil and various attending phantoms. During it, you can see all kinds of things like shapeshifters, necromancers, and knights against demons. Although the intention of the film was to evoke amusement and wonder from its audience, the reception was anything but that. Rather, many audience members left the theater in shock at what they were seeing, and many others were described as experiencing nothing short of a panic attack. But the most relevant piece of information came from Méliès himself, who said, "My goal was to surprise people with a good time. Instead, I think I ended up scaring them." And even though he didn't know yet, Méliès had accidentally created what we now know as the first horror movie. But what is horror? Horror is nothing more than an intense emotion of fear, shock, or disgust, caused by something extremely unpleasant, dangerous, or even unnatural. While horror media is a genre of film, television, literature, and other media designed to provoke fear, dread, and shock in the audience. Although the medium of horror has evolved tremendously, there's still an antiquated notion that these works only serve to scare and shock people and nothing more, not really presenting any merit nor creating any good, long-lasting effects in its viewers or society. And I can understand why certain groups of people might feel this way towards the medium of horror. However, recent studies and evidence has shown us that not only are these works incredibly remarkable from an artistic standpoint, but also beneficial for those who engage with them. So the question that we should ask ourselves is, how is it that engaging with horror can not only be fun, but actually beneficial for our health in the long run? And why you should care? Let's begin. Scary movies or scary media is nothing new nowadays. It is a form of art and entertainment that has been around for many decades now, and has definitely left its mark in popular culture, and the world as a whole. In movies alone, the horror genre has consistently generated around 10% of North American ticket sales. And if we take a closer look into the top 20 most profitable movies of all time, we will see that a total of 15 of those movies belong to the horror genre. But despite this, there is still an antiquated notion that the horror genre and other types of horror media are nothing more than just a way for creators to simply scare its audiences with disturbing imagery and ideas with nothing more to offer. However, once we start looking at the world of horror, we can see that this medium serves as not only a way to entertain people with a cheap thrill, but also a descent into a person or group of people's views or ideas of the world that we live in, and how they feel about it. From that point on, we can see clearly that horror media has done nothing but accelerate its growth and reach, exploring multiple topics that go from the most mundane types of fears a human can have to even the most existential types of terrors that our minds can conjure. Great works such as the books of Stephen King and Lovecraft would revolutionize the public's understanding of what literature can offer to the general audience, and how these works not only involve the ability to scare us, but also entertain us by the quality of their writing. Stories like those of Lovecraft would pave the way to a new type of horror, one based on the nature of the cosmos and how insignificant humans are compared to it, creating an existential type of horror that would make every person who read his book to ponder their place in the big scale of things, and how the description of its monsters would incite the imagination of people who up until that point could not even imagine creatures of such form and size. While Stephen King would bring incredible stories of iconic characters that would explore not only the aspects of horrors from unknown forces such as monsters and demons, but also from the day-to-day horrors we experience and wish to stay away from, such as dangerous animals, past trauma, obsession, and even our own psyche. And then, the world of music would change as well. Metal bands such as Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Slipknot, or Mayhem would expand upon this with lyrics that would touch topics of a taboo nature, such as deals with the devil, suicidal thoughts, death, war, etc. Opening the public's mind to a new type of music that up until that point had never been heard before, and whose main objective was to open the audience's mind to a new type of music, in which people could release their most suppressed parts of themselves, something that up until that point the musical world had failed to capture. And finally came the world of movies. Movies from the minds of industry giants such as Hitchcock, Kubrick, and Ridley Scott would revolutionize the public's understanding of what horror media could offer to the general audience, and how these works not only involve the ability to scare us, but also entertain us, giving us a look into the inner workings of their mind and how they express it in case studies of different types of fears a human can experience in a visual setting. The character's descent into madness with Psycho, the fear of a creature hunting you in a place that there is no escape, like Alien, or even how isolation warps the mind of a family to the point that a father wishes to hurt his family, in The Shining. In simple terms, we can see that the effects that horror movies or horror media causes in the average viewer is mostly just fear, which is the overall objective, but not the only one. And the main reason for that is because of those things that we do not control or yet understand. As a result, this also causes a myriad of other effects such as anxiety, panic, and paranoia. The downside of this is that one must understand that certain people might be negatively influenced by being exposed to this type of media, given that these emotions are feelings that the average human tries to avoid most of the time, given that it throws one's place in their day-to-day out of balance and takes you out of your own comfort zone. And the act of watching a piece of media such as this for certain people can negatively impact their mental health. According to Dr. Pamela Routledge, even the post-horror euphoria some feels activating, not relaxing. Thus, even those who enjoy the emotional rollercoaster of horror or suspense films can develop insomnia. However, if this was not presented in an entertaining way to the public, most people would not try to view these movies, and as a result, all this self-discovery and exposure to the adverse events that certain images or ideas cause in our minds would be lost. Because of that, a person must accept to partake in these activities willingly, in order to obtain the benefits of being exposed to these films, or other media that have a similar inclination towards horror. But what kind of effects horror media has on us in a medical sense? Being exposed to scary movies or other forms of similar media causes us to engage the part of our brain that instinctively goes into fight or flight mode. Adrenaline surges, our heart rate increases, and our senses get sharpened because of this, boosting your heart health by being exposed to the scares that appear in the movie, while at the same time strengthening your emotional resilience by facing pretend dangers that in turn help you practice managing fear and uncertainty, which can make real-life stress feel more manageable. According to Lauri Nunima, a neuroscientist and psychologist at the University of Turku, Finland, it's kind of a fluctuation between the threat system and these pleasure systems that's slowly going on in the brain while we watch these films. In turn, this improves the mood of the viewer. Both excitement and relief after the act of being exposed to the movie boosting the overall mood of the viewer. And, in some cases, it even enhances your creativity and problem solving by immersing you in an imaginary and unpredictable story that can spark creativity, thinking, and help you think outside of the box. A very important aspect about being exposed to these types of works is that one can experience them in a controlled setting, in which we can decide if we wish to continue being exposed to the horror that we're experiencing or not, in which we actually have the final say towards what happens to us. And being exposed to all this can only lead to one type of outcome, and that is that once you're exposed to this, you begin to develop a much more mature outlook on life, and the way we process our emotions. Our body and our mind get to be distracted from the weight of the world for however long these works last. And in that time, we are not letting our head or our feelings run wild into what might or might not happen, but actually we get to live in the present and realize that as much as these works might frighten us, once they finish, we realize that we are safe. As much as they scare us, we are stronger because of them. For now, we have the strength to face them. As we can see, all this information shows us that horror media serves a relevant part of how society is able to cope with uncomfortable feelings that normally would not be able to or even be capable to understand them and deal with them. While we no longer encounter real-life threats as often as our ancestors, watching a horror movie lets us put our innate threat decision to use. Because horror movies do such a good job at mimicking real-life threatening situations, our emotional response are similar to what it would be like if we face a real threat. This is why we feel anxiety and terror during a scary movie, but tend to walk out feeling a sense of accomplishment and mastery, which is something that no other type of media except horror movies and horror media can do for us. In conclusion, all of these works have an artistic style and appeal to them that find a way of showing us things that might disturb us, but their presentation allows us to see the interesting and even beautiful side of them. And as a result of this, we get to embark in a journey in which we must pass through hard times that in turn will make us better, because now we have finally faced our insecurities, and as a result, we have come the other side stronger than before, and more understanding of our fellow man.
Listens off the streets. Rainfall washes away the memories in binary. Salvation bathes us in its glow. We look up to the sky and dream.